Hi everybody, my name is Lydia Bias, and today I will be doing a book review on Feminism is for Everybody. So I came across this book through my critical thinking class. We were given 4 books to read for class, and we had to choose one of them to do a book review on. So the books were Trans, Exile and Pride, Democracy in Black, and of course, Feminism is for Everybody. So I chose to do Feminism is for Everybody because I took a women's studies class last year, so I thought that I knew a lot about feminism and it would be super easy to read because I already knew most of it. So while the book was easy to read, and that's the main point of Hook's writing this book, she does go into some pretty deep concepts that I had never even considered before. But we'll start talking about those abstract concepts in just a little bit. So at the beginning of the book, Bell Hooks, the author, starts talking about her experiences with feminism, describing how she has been an activist in the movement for over 40 years, and she's written many books about feminist theory and its intersectionalities with other identities like race. This proves her credibility on the topic because of how involved she has been with the movement. Hooks came from a working class family, and then she went on to attend an all-women's college, and then she went to Stanford. She has used these experiences to write many books about feminism and feminist theory, including Ain't I a Woman, Bone Black, Teaching to Transgress, and Outlaw Culture, just to name a few. In Feminism is for Everybody, the book that I will be discussing today, Hooks lays out what she believes to be the basic principles behind feminism. She describes feminist theory and where feminism stands on different political issues that are prominent in our society today. Some of these major areas that she discusses are reproductive rights, women in the workforce, feminist parenting, marriage and partnership, violence, and lesbianism. Along with these major political issues, Hooks describes where intersectionalities occur between feminism, race, and gender, along with class. She gets into some pretty deep topics like feminist spirituality, but Hooks does a good job of making this book very easy to understand, for the most part. And she does this intentionally, stating in the introduction that she wanted to write a clear book, easy to read without being simplistic. The purpose of this book was so that anyone could read about feminism, regardless of prior knowledge on the issue, and I would say that she does this to an extent. Even the cover of the book, look at it. It looks simple. It has only black and white and a little bit of red for the color scheme. All of the letters are in lowercase font, and I would say that this is so that she can show that it's simple, but you still get the meaning. She draws attention to this point of simplicity multiple times, saying how she wanted to write this book because no one else had yet, so that everyone can read about feminism and learn about it without the jargon that's normally in feminist writing. So for example, instead of just assuming that readers know what the patriarchy is, she takes some time to explain it, saying that it's another way of naming institutionalized sexism. Although this book lacks the jargon that normally keeps people from understanding feminist readings, it still goes into some pretty deep and complex topics. Even though I came into reading this book with a basic knowledge of feminist theory, I had to go back and reread parts multiple times to understand what she was truly trying to say. Although some of the topics are pretty complex, she makes sure to describe everything enough so that you understand what's going on before moving on to the next topic. And I think that she spends enough time that you're able to understand it, but not so much that you get confused in what she's trying to say. Another component of this book that I really liked was how Hooks related issues in today's society to feminism. She covers topics from women in the workforce to reproductive rights to feminist masculinity. I realized that there were many topics that I didn't know how they fit into feminism, and Hooks did a really nice job of describing exactly where feminist principles stood on these ideas. An example of this is when she talks about feminist parenting. I had not really thought about how feminism fit into parenting prior to reading this book, but in Hooks' chapter about feminist parenting, she describes how women perpetuate violence as much as men do because of the way they parent children. Hooks describes how feminism is a pro-family movement and does not support the violence against children. Violence is definitely a prevalent issue in society today, so I thought that it was interesting to read how feminism views it. The fact that Hooks made this book so relevant to social issues that we face today was definitely a strength in her writing because it keeps the reader's interest and then they can apply it in their life. Not only is this book easy to understand, but it's also laid out very clearly and logically as well. Hooks starts out in the introduction about what feminism is, and then she moves on to talk about feminist education. She describes each of the main areas of feminist policy with descriptions on each before moving on. As you move further through the book, the theories that she presents become more complex, but they overlap and they start to build on each other as you move through the reading. For instance, she places chapters about issues with class before she presents her chapter on women in the workforce. Class plays a major role in the workforce, so it was structured very well to put class before the workforce for better understanding for readers. She begins with a basis of exactly what feminism is, and then she moves forward to describe the different types of feminism and what feminist theory believes. She does not drag on about a topic, but explains everything simply as possible, which helped me to better understand the basic points without the unnecessary confusing information that's normally in feminist readings. At the beginning and the end of each chapter, Hooks would state exactly the topic that she was going to cover and how it relates to feminism. So this was a really good example of good organization because normally the thesis, or like the main idea, would be found at the beginning or the end of a chapter or a writing. So it was easy to see what exactly she was trying to accomplish in the chapter. And it redirected readers to the main point by placing this main idea at the beginning and the end of each chapter. The way that she organized the book was probably my favorite thing overall. While I did like most things about this book, one of the things that I disliked was her use of sources. For the most part, she only quoted her own works throughout the book. For me, this made it seem like there was no one else who shared these ideas with her, and it kind of seemed like self-promotion. I would have liked to have seen some more quotes from other feminist thinkers throughout this, but it was important for me to remember that at the time when she was writing this book, there probably wasn't very much work that didn't contain the jargon that she was trying to avoid, except for her own work. Along with this, I found it difficult to believe that in order to be a feminist, people had to share all of the same beliefs that Hooks says are key to feminism. For instance, Hooks critiques lifestyle feminism and says how it undermines feminist views because anyone with any views can think of themselves as a feminist according to lifestyle feminism. I think that this would somewhat contradict her basic argument that feminism is for everybody because she only offers her basic definition of feminism, and not everyone may agree with her specific brand of feminism. Everyone approaches feminism with their own values and experiences in place, and this may not align with Hooks' brand of feminism that makes feminism for everybody, as she encourages. During the book, she shares how she believes that certain types of feminism do not promote equality for all, and therefore do not support the feminist movement. Aside from this slight contradiction, I think that Hooks proves her point on why feminism can be for everybody if people follow her basic definition of feminism. But as the book progressed, her views became a bit more on the radical side. For example, Hooks shares later in the book that she believes that the anti-choice movement is fundamentally anti-feminist, insinuating that those who are in favor of the pro-life movement cannot be feminists. I disagreed with some of her arguments that she provided on what feminists must believe, but she did a good job of explaining why she had her beliefs nonetheless. Another example of this is when Hooks describes how we must forget romantic relationships to support the feminist movement because she believes that romantic love reinforces the patriarchy when there is a man in the relationship who has more power than the female. This seemed a bit on the radical side for me and a little bit harder to latch onto, but it was important for me to remember that we have had very different experiences in life so far, so her views will differ from mine. Overall, I think that Bell Hooks wrote a very informative book about feminism, and she did a really good job of keeping her argument concise and clear throughout the entire book. I liked the structure of the book and how she used her personal experiences to contribute to her argument. Although I did not like that she didn't contribute the opinions of others to her argument, and reviews grew to be increasingly radical as the book progressed, I think that I liked more of this book than I disliked. And I would definitely recommend this book to people who do not know what feminism is because I think that it gives a good definition of it in an easy to read manner. Thank you for listening to my review on Feminism is for Everybody by Bell Hooks, and I hope that it helps you with your decision on if you'd like to read it or not. Thank you.